a private jet, a luxury hotel. A man who appeared to be the heir to a global diamond fortune. To the women who met him through Tinder, Simon Leviev did not look like a stranger hiding behind a screen. He appeared to be visible, successful, and surrounded by evidence that seemed impossible to fake. But according to women interviewed by the Norwegian newspaper VG and later featured in the Netflix documentary The Tinder Swindler, the romance eventually changed into a financial emergency. The man they believed they loved said he was in danger. He said his enemies were watching him. He said he could no longer safely use his own accounts. And he asked the women closest to him for help. This story is not simply about dating apps, luxury travel, or one man's carefully constructed identity. It is about something more universal. Why love can make an emergency feel more important than doubt. Welcome to the Scam Files. We do not just tell stories about scammers. We decode why people believe them. The man known publicly as Simon Leviev was born Shimon Hayut in Israel. He later legally changed his name and presented himself as connected to the wealthy Leviev diamond family. The real family has publicly denied any connection to him and later pursued legal action over the use of its name. According to investigative reporting and the accounts presented in the Netflix documentary, Leviev used Tinder to meet women across Europe. His profile offered more than attractive photographs. It presented a complete world. There were expensive clothes, international flights, luxury hotels, professional-looking associates, and the constant movement of someone who appeared to live far beyond ordinary limits. For a person meeting him for the first time, this mattered. Online deception often depends on hiding information. This case allegedly worked in a different way. It overwhelmed people with information. There was a face. There were meetings in person. There were flights and hotel rooms. There were people around him who appeared to confirm that his life was real. Luxury became more than decoration. It became evidence. One of the women featured in the documentary, Cecilia Fjellhoy, described meeting him in London after matching on Tinder in 2018. The relationship reportedly moved quickly. She was introduced to an environment of private travel, expensive hospitality, and constant communication. This rapid pace is important. Romance scams are often described as if a victim simply believes a single lie. In reality, trust is usually built through repetition. A message becomes a conversation. A conversation becomes a meeting. A meeting becomes a shared memory. Each step makes the next request feel less unusual. The psychological hook was not greed. The women were not being promised investment returns. They believed they were helping someone they cared about. That difference changes everything. A request for money from a stranger creates suspicion. A request from a partner who appears frightened and endangered can create responsibility. According to the women's accounts, the turning point came when Leviev began claiming that his business enemies were threatening him. Messages and images allegedly presented a world of immediate danger. His security situation, he said, prevented him from safely using his own credit cards or financial accounts. The crisis created two forms of pressure at once. First came urgency. Help was needed immediately. Then came compassion. Refusing might place someone they loved in greater danger. Under those conditions, caution can begin to feel like betrayal. The documentary reported that women took out loans, extended credit, transferred money, and provided access to funds in an effort to help him. Some reportedly believed the money would be returned once the emergency ended. This is where the structure of the alleged scheme becomes especially revealing. The luxury that established trust required money. According to the documentary, funds obtained from one woman were used to sustain the lifestyle shown to another. The appearance of wealth helped produce new trust. New trust produced access to new money, and that money preserved the appearance of wealth. It resembled the circular logic of a Ponzi-style arrangement, but the promised return was not profit. It was emotional security. The women were not purchasing a financial product. They were trying to protect a relationship. If you value documentary stories that examine not only what happened, but why intelligent people can be drawn into extraordinary situations. Follow the scam files. Share this episode with someone interested in psychology, trust, and the hidden mechanics behind modern deception. The alleged method also depended on social proof. People tend to trust what appears to have already been trusted by others. A person surrounded by employees, business contacts, chauffeurs, and luxury service does not appear to need money. That contradiction can make a financial request seem more believable, not less. The victim may think, "He is obviously wealthy, so this must be temporary." The request does not look like someone asking for money because they have none. It looks like a powerful person facing a short-term security problem. That framing changes the emotional calculation. The money feels like a bridge, not a gift. The debt feels temporary. And every previous experience, the flight, the hotel, the messages, the apparent business activity, seems to promise repayment. According to the documentary, promised repayments sometimes came in forms that appeared legitimate, but did not resolve the debt. By the time doubts grew stronger, some of the women had already committed large amounts and risked their financial stability. This creates another psychological trap known as escalation of commitment. Once someone has invested money, time, emotion, and reputation into a relationship, walking away becomes harder. Accepting that the relationship may be false also means confronting every sacrifice already made. Continuing to believe can feel less painful than admitting the possibility of deception. This does not mean the victims lacked intelligence. It means the alleged scheme was built around ordinary human qualities: loyalty, empathy, hope, and the desire to believe that shared experiences were real. Public reaction to romance scams often focuses on the question, how could anyone believe this? That question can become a second injury. It isolates victims at the exact moment they most need help. Research on romance fraud has repeatedly noted that victims may suffer not only financial loss, but also emotional trauma, shame, damaged trust, and social judgment. The loss is not simply money. It is the discovery that memories, promises, and intimate conversations may have served another purpose. The story became public in 2019 after an investigation by the Norwegian newspaper VG. The reporting connected accounts from multiple women and presented patterns that were difficult to see when each person believed she was facing a private crisis. This is another reason cross-border romance fraud can continue. Each victim may have only one piece of the story. Different countries, banks, identities, and legal systems can keep those pieces separated. When the accounts were placed side by side, the similarities became visible. The same language of danger, the same urgency, the same need for financial help, the same world of luxury supporting the same claim of credibility. Hayut was arrested in Greece in 2019 after authorities identified him using a false passport, and he was extradited to Israel. He later received a 15-month sentence in Israel after pleading guilty to fraud-related charges from an earlier case. He was released after serving 5 months. This distinction matters. The Israeli sentence was not a conviction for the specific allegations made by the women featured in the Netflix documentary. He had also previously been convicted of fraud offenses in Finland. In interviews after the documentary's release, he denied presenting himself as a fraudulent romantic mastermind and disputed the portrayal of him. CNN reported that he described himself as a single man who had met women on Tinder. The women featured in the documentary maintained their accounts of financial and emotional harm. Tinder stated that it had banned him and his known aliases from the platform after the allegations became public. The case became globally famous after Netflix released The Tinder Swindler in 2022. But fame did not automatically repair the consequences. For victims of financial deception, public recognition does not erase loans, damaged credit, legal costs, or the emotional effect of discovering that trust may have been deliberately exploited. And this is the central lesson. The alleged scheme did not begin with a demand for money. It began with credibility. Then came intimacy. Then came vulnerability. Only after trust had been established did the emergency arrive. That sequence matters because most people imagine scams beginning with an obvious request. In sophisticated social engineering, the request often comes last. By then, the victim is not evaluating a stranger. They are responding to someone who has become part of their life. Scams change with technology. Letters became phone calls. Phone calls became dating apps, encrypted messages, social media profiles, and instant international transfers. But human nature does not change at the same speed. We still respond to affection. We still feel responsible when someone we love appears to be in danger. We still use visible status as a shortcut for credibility. And we still find it difficult to accept that a meaningful relationship may have been constructed for another purpose. The safest lesson is not to distrust love. It is to recognize that love should never require secrecy, escalating debt, or repeated financial emergencies that cannot be independently verified. A healthy relationship can survive questions. A genuine crisis can survive verification. And trust should never demand the destruction of the person offering it. What do you think made this alleged scheme most convincing? The luxury lifestyle, the emotional bond, or the manufactured emergency? Share your view in the comments without blaming the victims. Their experiences are a reminder that manipulation often works by exploiting admirable qualities, not foolishness. Follow the Scam Files for more carefully sourced documentaries about deception, identity, and the psychology of belief. Share this story with someone who enjoys understanding not only how a false story was built, but why it felt real. Scams change. Human nature doesn't.